room? What room?
I don't know what room. I haven't memorised every room in the universe yet. I had yesterday off. Mills, don't go in there. Bad smoke, don't breathe the bad smoke, bad, deadly smoke, because somebody shot my TARDIS.
Doctor, this guy, I think he's hurt.
Transmit normal life signs.
Artificial gravity holding, but we should get upright when we can.
No, hang on. No, it's fine.
Oh, hello. Sorry, is this your office? Had a sort of collision with my vehicle. Faults on both sides. Let's say no more about.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Talking Who, and Sean's not here to join me, but I am joined by two very lovely people from the Naked Scarf podcast, Adam and Andy. John couldn't get it right earlier, but this is actually Adam and this is actually Andy. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Lovely
It's
to be here.
great to be here.
Good.
Absolutely terrifying, but great.
It's just the same as the podcast, except the microphone has got a camera attached to it.
Yeah, but
I
usually
can't edit
the
out all
fact
my
that
mistakes.
exactly, and usually the fact that it doesn't have a camera attached to it is our saving grace.
Ah, well, and of course people are watching us live, of course, is the other thing,
true.
and interacting. And so, well, look, we've got a message already from the Gallifrey Times. Hello, Naked Scarf.
Hello, Gallifrey Times. I'm going to be like that all the time. Waving at the camera constantly.
And actually, speaking of the Gallifrey Times, we're now hosted on the Gallifrey Times as well, so people can actually be watching the show from the Gallifrey Times website, which is quite good and quite exciting. But
Once again, far more legit than our operation.
I can't believe that.
No, it usually does us a microphone and a laptop and me swearing.
But we are
editing.
essentially a laptop as well and a microphone. We just have to have a camera on a USB as well. So it's not that dissimilar. Except, of course, we are live. We're doing it
Yes.
live. Have you thought about doing a live podcast?
Oh, the number of times we muck up our own introduction, I don't think it'd be a good idea.
Sorry, are we supposed to be instilling confidence here or what?
Well, tell us about the Naked Scarf podcast, because I think it's quite different to other Doctor Who podcasts out there.
Basically, each episode we select a story at random, usually, or
Adam tells us what story
I
we're going to
usually
do.
go for the DVD collection. I fancy watching that, and basically for about half an hour, 40 minutes, we bludgeon it to death with our opinions. Basically, yeah. I mean, we kind of cover everything from Hartnell to Smith, and we did recently do a philosophy special. Which
Yes, no, that was very good actually.
Which wasn't looking at any particular story.
Yeah.
More looking at it was about the philosophy of identity and how it relates to Doctor Who, and we're probably going to do a few more specials like that, just to widen our gaze.
Yeah, good. I mean, one thing I liked about the philosophy one is it was actually quite educational, I have to say. And I thought perhaps that you guys, I think I was telling you earlier, I thought perhaps you probably studied philosophy at university or something, because it seemed quite in depth, quite knowledgeable.
No, it's just something that Andy's read a lot about. I mean, the whole thing, my approach to it was her specialist subject, and I was very much her plucky girl assistant, just asking questions that I thought the audience might need.
Like I said, he made a beautiful plucky girl assistant. He should really do it more often.
Okay, so I think we just need to maybe all speak in a bit clearer towards the mic. Hopefully that'll be better. So this week, well, actually, in September, Day of the Daleks is coming out on DVD, which I'm really excited about. Do you know the story?
I have to be honest, I haven't actually seen it, so I am actually really excited, because I've heard a lot about it, and I know it's like one of the few early Doctor Who looks at time travel.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet. But of course, I know they're bringing out with a special edition, which leaves me a bit torn. I don't know if I should watch the original first and then the special edition.
Well, I think it's going to be. I think they have both versions on the discs. Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I certainly haven't seen it since the VHS days, and not having a proper working VHS means you just can't. They're just sort of sitting there doing nothing. But they've had to replace all the voices because everyone's said that the Daleks' voices were never quite right in this particular episode. But they've done a lot of CGI as well. And I'm going to a screening, I think, on Sunday with the Doctor Who Appreciation Society to actually see it on the big screen, which is quite exciting.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
No, that'll be really cool. No, it has been a few years since I've seen it too. I only have fairly vague memories of it, but it didn't... I'm probably going to incur a lot of wrath now. It didn't particularly stand out to me as being anything other than a fairly typical Pertwee story.
I love typical Pertwee.
Yes, I know you do. Is this one? Yeah. Joe Grant. I think I remember Pertwee picking up a gun as well, but that's just about it, actually. And Daleks, of course.
Daleks, of course, yes. Which appeared quite often in Pertwee's era.
Yes, they did.
To diminishing returns.
Yes, no,
I
sure, yeah.
I think it's a bit like the RTD era and that.
Yeah,
sort of
too many
stuff
Daleks,
when
yeah.
it's like,
Too many defeats, not enough menace,
Yeah.
I suppose it is, isn't it? But this week, of course, Let's Kill Hitler.
Well, let's just start by saying it is without a doubt the best title of a Doctor Who episode ever. Ever.
I remember.
But there's no payoff for the title, is there? Let's lock Hitler in a cupboard, I suppose, wouldn't actually sound as good.
No, I mean, I do remember when we were watching Good Man Goes to War. There was Andy and I and a few friends, and we were sitting around the TV. And when it came, Doctor Who will be back in Let's Kill Hitler. We all just burst out laughing, which was a really kind of weird thing. But so maybe the name was a little bit of a letdown. Hitler's out of it in the first 10 minutes.
Well, he doesn't do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's actually Hitler's completely irrelevant to the plot of the story.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's always a little bit difficult in these things to include someone like Hitler in a family science fiction show. It gets a very dodgy area, I feel, particularly with the kind of audience they're aiming for.
But was it a waste of actually using Hitler in Doctor Who? Because obviously the Doctor has appeared in very key moments of history. And this one, you've got probably one of the biggest ones, and it's just like, well, it's just a throwaway joke, really.
I quite like that, though, because it's kind of this little subversion of the kind of standard
Expectations.
Yeah. And how kind of those kind of stories have been going in New Who, where the Doctor meets a famous person from the past. Admittedly, I just before I was going to say they team up. I don't know if the Doctor should have teamed up with it. That's a very dark area. I don't think we need to go to. But they meet up. There's an adventure, and then at the end they go, "Will they remember me?" And the Doctor usually goes, "Yes, definitely."
Oh.
So I think everyone's expecting that, and then just to have Rory just shove Hitler into the cupboard. Was it a letdown? Possibly, but I enjoyed the rest of the episode so much.
Well, that's the thing.
Probably didn't notice it being a letdown.
Yeah, I suppose because the title sort of gave an expectation, and the title didn't live up to the expectation, but the story itself does.
The problem that I personally find is that when you come to Hitler, I mean, there have been a lot of cases in the past where we've seen Doctor stories that an event happens and we already know what's going to happen later on in history, and the Doctor has to explain to a distraught companion that no, there
You
wasn't
can't
really
change
anything
things.
you can do
Yes,
to change
indeed.
that. Of course, when it comes to Hitler, because that's in terms of history a fairly recent thing, it just throws it into a whole new level that perhaps the first episode of the part 2 of the new sort of season possibly didn't want to get too bogged down in looking at. If you catch my drift, it's a massive question. I think that it actually worked fairly well when played for laughs. I mean, there were some great Rory moments. Rory punching Hitler in the face.
Shut up, Hitler.
Rory telling Hitler to shut up.
Hitler in the cupboard.
Putting Hitler in the cupboard. And yeah, it just there were some fantastic comedy moments there, and I thought it worked really, really nicely. It is just a shame, like you say, that the title, as funny as it was, did perhaps give some expectations of something completely different.
And of course, the other expectation was at the end of A Good Man Goes to War is Let's Kill Hitler. There's the skeleton holding the sonic screwdriver, and actually that had nothing to do with the story either.
I suspect that was supposed to be more a teaser for the entire second half.
Yes.
Because everyone, I presumed it was going to be something to do with that episode. I think that's more of a bit of a screw up on the BBC's part,
Yeah.
maybe not quite making it clear. But I mean, can we disagree that Roy Williams is the greatest companion in history by this point? Surely, he gets all the
Rory is
best
great.
lines.
Yeah, he is. And Arthur Darvill's actually a great actor as well. I think he pulls it off really well.
And there was a fantastic line as well where he jumps on the motorbike and Amy says to him, "Can you ride a motorbike?" And he said, "I think so. It's just one of those days." I love that.
Can I just check something in the chat room? If it says censored, does that mean somebody said something rude?
I guess they may have done. Yeah.
One of the names I've noticed here is Traumatron, which I presume is my friend Colin. Hello,
Yeah.
Colin. Stop swearing.
I think it probably does mean that. Yes. I think we can. I don't know if we can actually.
So Colin says it's not him.
It's not him, is it? Okay.
He's playing so.
No, I don't think I can change that. Traumatron, but that's
Traumatron.
quite URL removed. So he's probably put in a website, which he's probably put in a website, and that's been removed.
But yes. Anyway, what do you think of the pacing of Let's Kill Hitler?
I thought it was good. I mean, it was very speedy. It was just. I mean, it was just non-stop. Really, it was. From the cornfields through going crashing into Hitler, it was just
I mean, that's always the thing with Moffat. One of the reasons I really like him as a writer is that he always has so many ideas, and it's maybe sometimes arguable that he almost has too many ideas to fit into the one episode he does. But I'd rather have too many ideas than too few, in a way. And there's so much in this episode.
Yes,
and I think it just about balances it. I think it's a very delicate act, but it just carries it off.
Yeah, I mean, I do like my Doctor Who sometimes to just take its time and let's learn who everyone is. But we didn't have to in this particular. We don't need to know who everyone is because we know who the main characters are. There isn't anyone new. Even the numbskulls. I can't even think of another word to call them really. I just keep thinking of the numbskulls.
I thought that Eddie Murphy movie that no one saw. I think Norton or something.
Yeah.
I just thought it makes me wonder if the final of this series is going to be based on Beverly Hills Cop 3 or something. It's just going to go. Moffat's going to start taking off Eddie Murphy movies. Yeah.
The surprise of Mel's, aka Melody. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I thought as soon as they said the name Mel's, I just knew immediately.
I feel really bad. That totally surprised me. But I was kind of glad because I was finding it really irritating until she regenerated, and then her character kind of made sense. Because when we saw her first come in and then you see the flashback, I was like, oh great, it's another young girl in love with the Doctor, because that's not an idea we've beaten to death by now. Oh dear. And for a terrifying moment I thought, oh god, what if she's supposed to be the new sassy companion or something, and that's been sneaked in, and I had this dread, and then she regenerated. I thought, oh god, thank god, it all makes sense, of course, because when I watched it the second time, her lines are quite River Song-esque, and I thought, oh, I actually thought, why didn't I pick up on this the first time? But yeah, I was quite glad when she got shot and regenerated.
And I suppose we're sort of led to assume that the young girl at the end of Day of the Moon has regenerated into Mel's.
Yes, I think she made that.
Or there's another regeneration between where she's actually lived for 50 years.
There's one line that River Song says where she goes, oh, maybe I'll decrease the aging, which to me, because I thought doesn't quite match up, but then it seems to indicate that she has some kind of control over
the regenerations, which,
or even over
if you go back to Romana's regenerations, would indicate as a female trait of people of Time Lords and Time Lord DNA.
She's a unique thing. We don't quite know what her abilities are. I mean, I do think that could down a bit of explanation about quite what she's been doing between. But I mean, it's a fascinating idea that she was basically using her own parents as a trap. She just knew she'd hang out with them long enough.
The Doctor would eventually arrive,
which is a really, really interesting idea, actually.
But it is a shame that Mel's wasn't even just. It was like a throwaway line just used in the 11th hour, just to have set the scene. She's been living here. Oh yeah, because he did because it was all retconned back into history.
Like, oh, this is our best friend that you've never mentioned the entire time before.
To your wedding.
Didn't come to your wedding, exactly.
No, I thought that perhaps a lot of what happened quite fast. I liked the episode. I did like it a lot. I don't think it was completely faultless, and I think that if there had been time to do another episode, then it could very happily have fit into a two-parter. However, I'm assuming that the reason they did it in one part is because they have so many awesome episodes that are going to come out that they just couldn't afford that one. But that's what I'm hoping anyway, because I have to say, I know that the trailers always look good, but the trailers look really good for the rest of the series.
And actually next week's as well, especially.
Yes.
My one slight worry about next week's, admittedly, is that I think Mark Gatiss has been on a bit of a downward spiral. For me personally, with his episodes, I thought Unquiet Dead was really good, and then it's been a bit. And then we had Victory of Daleks last year, and I'm like, well, I'll give it a go because it does look really good. But touch wood.
Traumatron in the chat room says it didn't need flashbacks for stuff that happened moments previously, though.
Oh yeah, when he's doing the bullet stuff, taking the
Yes,
gun.
exactly.
Yeah, I guess.
That's interesting actually, because you know what it reminded me of? Sherlock, which of course is the other series that...
Yes, you're right.
And
You're
I wondered if it was a little allusion to that.
And
yes.
he's done that before. I think in Christmas Carol there's a moment where he does a very
Flashes,
similar thing.
It's like we can't work it out for ourselves. The fact that he's actually just removed the bullets isn't just showing the bullets enough, perhaps?
I think it...
Is it the sledgehammer approach to storytelling?
I think it almost sets it up a little bit, though, as this sort of deadly flirtation that's going on between the Doctor and the as not yet quite established River Song. That perhaps they're so quick and almost quite attuned to each other that they already sort of know what the
two or
other
three
person has done.
indeed.
And they're supposed to be one step behind them.
Yeah.
So perhaps it was just, as far as a storytelling device goes, just setting the scene a bit there.
But then, of course, the Doctor surely would know about the kiss.
Yeah, I suppose because thinking about
because
it,
it's been established. That's what she's done anyway.
The hallucinatory lipstick. I guess so, but maybe because it was so seemingly innocuous that he didn't think anything of it. Though it does make you wonder if Mel's had been going around with poison lipstick the entire time,
just waiting.
In case. I did like the banana as a callback to I think it was The Empty Child. Or
But then it's like when you're holding a banana as opposed to a heavy gun. I mean, you would have realised this at some point, surely.
This is the moment. Maybe, I find it quite interesting how they showed River after the regeneration being so kind of manic, like the Doctor.
Yes.
I believe the things like the teeth, and then running around, and that's very much
kind
of a Doctor-esque thing.
I mean, it was a good way. A good way, I think, for River to, I guess, appear her origin story. But it's that change, I suppose, from Assassin River to Doctor's Lover River was just within just seconds.
I don't know if she's entirely there though, because it's kind of hinted that Rory goes, "She's still got stuff in her head," and the Doctor just kind of looks at him. There's one of the kind of little Matt Smith moments where he doesn't really say anything, but he does. And so I don't think it's quite that clear cut. I think there's still, and she's not. I don't think she's still quite River yet. That was just the impression I got. And they're certainly not lovers yet.
No, they're not. They're not lovers yet. No, sure.
We all know what the last episode in the series is now called, I believe, Wedding of River Song.
Yes.
But I after Let's Put Hitler in the Cupboard, I'm not taking any bets on what actually happens.
No, I don't. I think their episode titles are designed to be as sensational as possible these days.
And I also think that Stephen Moffat delights in misleading the fan community. It was like I know we've mentioned it before, but when they showed the preview trailer for the whole new series. And there was a clip which we now know is from the Doctor's wife, which looked like someone was regenerating inside Tennant's TARDIS.
Yeah.
And fandom went mad. All of these theories. And then it turns out that actually, no, Tennant's not coming back, and it's not the Doctor who's regenerating. And it was all very straightforward. But I do get the feeling that he actually enjoys...
Of course. I mean, Doctor Who has a very... avid fan base, and of course they'll pick up on anything, and any kind of hint of anything will just be huge news. And I think that's why they always have to be careful with real spoilers, because it's so easy for the real spoilers to get out there.
Can I just actually talking about spoilers? Can I just plug something that Doctor Who Podcast Alliance has done?
Yeah,
it's done a special on spoilers, and I'll put a link to it on our website, and it's various podcasts talking for about 5 minutes on their view of spoilers, and we're on there, and there's the Minute Doctor Who podcast, the Impossible podcast, Staggering Stories, and a few others.
Podcast Alliance haven't quite worked out what to do with us, because because I guess because we're a video one, we're not on iTunes, somehow we don't get classified as being a podcast.
I guess it's
well, you can listen to the podcast through their site, so I guess that they might not be set up. But
yeah. Anyway, I had some tweets during the week about the episode. At Barry Aldridge, great episode, but felt like a series finale than an opener.
Timey-wimey.
Leah Hather says, I thought it had a really slow start and didn't like it. Then it concentrated on River Song and then I loved it. At the time kill, bit disappointed it's River's last regeneration.
I guess it was always going to be that case though, with having seen Silence in the Library. Silence in the Library.
We always knew that she was
has to die.
Die in this form.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad that's been established because it's kind of a great tragic end for the character that we've already seen that, I think.
But of course, in the dialogue, they're saying she used up all her remaining regenerations, which then does put there is a finite amount of regenerations, and are they re-establishing the 13 rule?
I don't think it's ever really gone away. They don't state it a lot. I mean, I know there was that whole Sarah Jane Adventure thing.
But you could tell it was a joke.
Yeah, that's what got me. Everyone got wound up, and I watched it and I thought, he's obviously joking.
And the doctor lies. And actually they said that in this episode, the doctor lies.
It did vaguely occur to me, because if the series is still doing well, it's still making the BBC a lot of money by the time the 13th Doctor pops his clogs, they've kind of almost perhaps got a way out of that by going, he's still got the energy left over from River's regeneration. It just occurred to me randomly as I was watching. I don't think that's why they did it.
Yeah, sure.
You could almost use that.
In all fairness, it's Doctor Who. It's one of those shows where you could take just about any idea or concept, and if you're clever, you can find a way to keep it
It's
going.
science fiction. Science fiction can be anything, and it's...
But it really is one of the most versatile characters.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of what the Doctor supposedly is. If they wanted to find a way to keep it going forever, then they probably could. Not that might just be a bit of thinking on my part.
I suppose what would be nice is they actually do acknowledge there always has been a limit in its canon, and they create a reason why it shouldn't be, and they actually make that a major storyline, I suppose.
Absolutely. I know that Gallifreyan society likes its traditions, but at the same time, why 13? You're dealing with something. I mean, it's never quite explained the way that regeneration works in that sense. But why 13? Why?
It's in the Five Doctors. I think it is. Yeah, it is 5 Doctors. The Masters offered a new cycle of regeneration.
That's
so
right.
It's obviously something that can be extended.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we think about the 5 Doctors, which I don't like to so much, but we're not going to have this argument again.
More tweets. At Whovian 1990, I thought it was brilliant. Moffat still has so much more planned, though. Not sure about river regeneration, though. At Dennis O'Carroll, crazy episode, but in a very good way. Some questions answered, some not, and new questions thrown in for good measure. Brilliant. And at Deborah Hasselt, I thought it was really good, well worth the wait. Looking forward to how River grows up. And at Gallifrey Times, who's actually in the chat room as well, amazing. So I think pretty universal from the fans there. But you were saying some of the reviews haven't been quite.
There's been I've seen links to mixed reviews. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that Moffat has a very strong vision for the series. Now, the vision I really like, personally, it really clicks with me. But anyone with such a strong vision, you're going to divide people. I mean, one of the criticisms I get leveled at it, I'm afraid I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now. And it's one I went on Twitter recently, so I apologise if anyone watching this heard that and the same stuff. But it's one thing that really irritates me is when people go, oh, it's now too complicated for children. And that really annoys me, because I've worked for the last 6 years, I've been working in the children's theatre, and I've seen kids see all sorts of shows, and I've realised if you put something on intelligent, surprisingly enough, 95% of the kids will respond to that. They like that. And I think it's a bit of a shame that we talk a lot about things being dumbed down for kids.
Well, perhaps
present something which is a bit of intelligence, and doesn't give them all these answers, and then we complain that it's too complicated.
But has it been any different? I don't think so. I mean, has people been able to explain the story of Ghostlight yet?
No, we're still trying. We're still trying.
I think kids will get out of whatever they want out of a particular story.
Yes, exactly. And talking about complicated, I still don't know what's happening in Warriors Gate. I've seen that story numerous times.
And you know what? It's great to be able to watch and re-watch stories just to see if you can find out something new or learn something new or discover something new in that particular story.
I went to the Doctor Who experience second time recently, and I took my nephew as a kind of delayed 8th birthday present for him. It was my 30th birthday as well, but that was just a lucky coincidence. And because his mum was there, and I was chatting, and I said, "How's he been keeping up with the new series? Has it been too complicated?" And she looked at me like I just said the most stupid thing in the world, and was like, "No, he's absolutely fine." And I was like, "Your mum has trouble keeping up with it, but he's fine." And that's just that's how it is. And and being at the Doctor Who experience, seeing all these kids running around, a lot of them dressed up as Matt Smith, a couple of Stetsons as well. You think it's not too complicated. They're having a great time. They love it. You know, but we get going like, oh, it's too complicated. And I think it's on people who never met a child as well to say that.
I think maybe it's because I'm a big kid at heart that I love it too.
Well, of course, we all are. At Traumatron in the chat room says, Moffat's created a unique scenario with this regeneration transference. Idbas agrees, sci-fi, anything can happen. Gallifrey Time says, I think Moffat will get around the Doctor's death. Idbas says, I think they've done really well at keeping Doctor Who a family show that appeals to everyone.
So can I just give a shout out to Big Papa Creamy? That's my
Big
flatmate
Papa
Ben.
Creamy. Oh, yes.
Hello, Ben.
It's
Hope
like
you're
your
enjoying
little
this.
urban family have all popped up to
Popped
say
up to,
hello. That's the equivalent of having your dad turn up at sports day. You
It's
know?
a little bit.
In the YouTube chat room, T Chalky. Hello, T Chalky. He's one of our regulars. I think he's probably know him on Twitter. I didn't know Melody River was going to be in it, so I'm glad I didn't see any spoilers. Tartan Jeff. Okay, TARDIS equals a drink of Shiraz. What is that?
I have
Tartan
no
Jeff.
idea.
I have no idea what that means.
No idea, but I quite like the sound of Shiraz.
We'll kill your zombies, and this is your girlfriend. Who?
Oh, that'd be my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Hello, Lauren. I thought she said she was going to go to bed. She's like, oh, I'll be past my bedtime.
We'll kill your
I'll go to bed.
zombies.
Yep.
That's her name, is it?
Yep. That sounds well.
She dreams a lot about killing zombies.
It's true. She has many zombie dreams. But I thought she said she was going to go to bed, so she wouldn't be able to watch this. But hello, darling. My parents are going to pop up in a minute. The way this is going, they're actually just going to suddenly discover the internet after all these years.
Torchwood.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been reviewing it the last couple of weeks and haven't been particularly nice about the show. I think it's got a lot of problems. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's fair to say we're both big Children of Earth fans.
Yes.
I didn't like the first two series of Torchwood.
Really? Okay.
I watched a few episodes out of Series 1 and Series 2, but I just couldn't get into it. And I was really disappointed because when it first was announced, I was like, brilliant, Doctor Who spin-off.
I guess for the first two series, you're expecting a Doctor Who spin-off. Whereas Children of Earth, I guess, really isn't. It's in its own beast, really, isn't it?
I would argue that Children of Earth was a Doctor Who spin-off because it was what happens when the Doctor isn't there.
Right.
And it felt like it could fit into that universe. I mean, my main problem with Series 1 and 2 was I thought most of the writing was diabolical, and I found, Tosh and Owen to be two of the most irritating characters.
Right, okay.
I was really happy when they got killed off. That's probably why I like Children of Earth, to be honest. But, so this, I went into Miracle Day, quite hopeful. And I was enjoying it, but I found the last couple of episodes, I'm just like, right. And even this, Immortal Sins, is it, the last one I showed? A lot of people who haven't been liking it suddenly said, oh, that's really good. But I was just a bit not that engaged. I think maybe because like the big revelation at the end, which is
which you could tell from the very first minute of the show.
The moment Jack met, what was his name, Alonso? The Italian. I would call him Mario. I don't know why, but Alonso. The moment he met him, you kind of knew he was going to turn up.
Well, of course. I mean, why would they've just spent the last 45 minutes in a flashback to this character?
He's alive.
Really?
Right. No surprise. So. I think the main
and Jack, who's got apparently the most amazing technology to work out anything, hasn't worked out his own boyfriend's been alive, despite the fact that Jack has been alive all these decades as well.
Yes.
I think the main problem is the pacing. I think it needs tighter plotting, tighter pacing. A lot of people have said this: 10 episodes, one story.
Way too long.
5 episodes, I think, would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it's a brilliant idea. I love the idea so much, and like some of my favourite scenes are in the early episodes with the medical committees where they're going, what do we do about this, and come up with the problems that you think, oh god, that would happen. I think
no, we did get that collective I called it my Children of Earth moment, which is when I got that like real pang in my chest and I suddenly realised, oh my god, how good this is. I had a moment there which with that was the episode which ends with Vera's death.
Yes, which was
which was
to me the only
moment.
but to me it was, we've been waiting 5 weeks for one scene.
Yeah. And I have to say, I actually disagree with Adam about this particular episode, Immortal Sins. I thought it was nice. I really enjoyed looking back into Jack's past, and I think that one of the things that Torchwood really benefits from is when it has that real human element to it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time there are these people, like Rex has said, who are treating these massive, big problems that the human race probably as a whole couldn't deal with as a big joke. And yes, that is their coping mechanism, but Torchwood has always done really well when it's been particularly human. And that's what was so good about Children of Earth. Was when you saw those scenes where you had all the government officials sitting around trying to decide how they were going to select their children and deciding to take them from working class families because they saw them as being less socially useful, and you thought to yourself, in the very improbable likelihood that that actually did happen, that's probably what would happen. And it's that sort of realism that sort of grips your chest, and even though this episode, Immortal Sins, was a different kind of realism, it was still nice to have that very human element of Jack. And I also like the references it made to Doctor Who, when he was talking about this person, he met the Doctor and how they had a companion.
Yeah, not seem incredibly forced.
Yeah.
It was just like,
It did
I'm
seem-
mentioning the Doctor because this is a Doctor spin-off.
It did seem a little, but you have to remember that this is being pitched to an audience who wouldn't necessarily have seen Doctor Who. It's a
But then does it really matter? They
Yeah,
should mention it.
Production.
If they haven't seen it,
Why mention it?
yeah, because they're going to be like, what?
I think it's nice when they throw in something small. It's like one of those things that they made a joke earlier on in the series about a warehouse and it being bigger on the inside. Small thing, if you don't get the reference, then you don't miss much. If you do get the reference, it's nice to...
I mean,
have that.
as a standalone episode set in the 1920s, it was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, where it fell down was because the fact that, you know, they seem to be driving in this car for so long, when they've already demonstrated they can drive to Los Angeles in 2 minutes. You know.
I did think that the scenes between Gwen and Jack, though, were brilliant. I mean, there were so
But it just went on and on and on
till the end of time.
Yeah.
But I'm not trading my family for you. That's not something I'm willing to do.
I did like those scenes. I also like the fact that Esther wasn't in it very much.
Yes.
I
Oh,
found
yeah.
her literally the most irritating thing. I actually think this.
She's
season-
like the worst CIA agent that ever existed.
So I used my. But it was. I think it was in the episode before. She went. They have my name. They have my name. I was like, didn't you used to work for the CIA? Aren't you currently on the run from the CIA? They already have your name. They already know everything about
It's
you.
the fact that she works as an analyst in the CIA, and so she knows how they track people, yet she somehow breaks all the rules so that she can make herself instantly trackable.
Yeah, it's hard.
Radio Rassilon is in the chat room.
Hey guys.
Hi!
Torchwood is like an itch you can't stop scratching, mildly pleasurable, but ultimately a bad idea. That's Lisa.
Sounds about right.
Tartan Jeff says, I am William will get Minion to explain the plots, but only if he puts his trousers on first. And because the other mystery is where does Jack get a supply of 1940s clothes in 1920s New York?
I was wondering that. He must really look after that jacket. That's all I could think. I was watching it. I was just like, but it's a little bit.
But it's had to survive every single adventure since the Victorian era.
It's a little bit 80s Who, isn't it? He never changes out of that costume. That is literally all I can think of. He's like Adric. It's the same costume.
It is very Adric-like,
no,
yes.
It's not quite
It's like,
accurate.
please notice me and always look at me.
Yeah. And
When he's sort of gone to New York as a special agent to try and solve a mystery and go underground, but he doesn't necessarily want to blend in.
Yes, yeah. I do like the character of Captain Jack. I always thought it was a lot of fun, particularly when he's in Doctor Who. But I said I enjoyed him in Children of Earth, but yeah, he just it's not really. I'll watch it. I will watch it to the end, and hopefully it'll pick up. I mean, I saw in the next one trailer they've got Q in the next one.
Q,
like,
yeah.
evil
Well,
beard,
they had what's her face as well, Nana Visitor.
I didn't recognise her. I wasn't until afterwards. I knew she was in it, but I was looking for her. I thought, where was she in that? And then I realised that was her at the very end. So I was just like, oh, you've aged.
I have to say, from the trailer, it looks like the next episode's going to take quite a dark turn, which is...
As opposed to burning somebody alive.
Well, okay, a similar dark turn. But at any rate, I think...
But not necessarily a logical turn.
No, not necessarily. I just, like, without wanting to give anything away, it's sort of very similar looking to the beginning of V for Vendetta. Yes.
Okay.
And I always thought that Torchwood works best when it's dealing with those sort of subjects that people don't like talking about.
Yeah.
So it should be quite interesting. Like Adam says, I'll continue to watch.
When you say things people don't like talking about, do you mean like all the gay sex apparently people are complaining about? Which is ridiculous.
No, I was referring to Oswald Danes, but do go on.
I can't get all these complaints the BBC are getting about Torchwood being explicit. It's like, do you not know what this series is? Are you not?
Well, it's post-Watershed as well.
It's post-Watershed.
Yeah.
It's just. I think it's just a couple of people kicking it up a big fuss.
Yeah.
But
I think the thing is, because I guess they advertise it as a Doctor Who spin-off, then there are inevitably going to be kids who shouldn't be watching past 9 o'clock, wanting to watch past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And of course, then their parents realising that actually perhaps they shouldn't have let them watch past 9 o'clock. Well, that's
the parents.
Perhaps the parents should have watched it first and then, decided whether they should be allowing their kids to watch it.
In all fairness,
but
though,
why can't they?
It being on after 9 o'clock would probably be a pretty strong indication that it's not Doctor Who.
But
Even if the name
can
is
be surprisingly
stupid.
Yeah, stupid.
Indeed. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because actually this episode has Oswald Davies or lovely Judy Kissinger. Which is always a bit of a weakness, and I think when he comes back, he definitely is back in next week's. But I found Bill Pullman really surprisingly watchable in this.
Oh, he's fantastic.
But, I mean, creepy as hell.
But that's because he's sort of acting the rest of the cast, and
it's quite
unfortunately, he's not the lead actor, and that's not a good sign for Torchwood. If they expect it to carry on with like Rex and Esther as being, your leading characters.
Because I think Gwen's been very good in this. Actually, I think she's been doing well with what she's been given.
Except she's been shoved aside and gone to. You have to go to Wales and worry about your father, and it's just like, really, because of all the actions happening in Los Angeles.
She adds a real character to it. I think she adds a real flavour to it that I obviously works very well, and I like her as a character. So I'd be sorry to see her shoved aside. Rex, I'm still a bit on the fence about. I mean, he was a massive arsehole at the beginning, and maybe he's softening a little bit. But I actually like Dr. Juarez, and when she burned, I was like, "Oh, that's my favourite."
It was a shame because that was the best character.
It was great because it was a really powerful moment. And if they killed Esther, I wouldn't have cared, frankly. But I was just like really shocked because I suppose good drama is killing people you care about ultimately. Because otherwise, there's no point killing a character no one likes.
Except if you want people to continue watching, and I think
quite possibly.
I think my wife stopped watching after 5 because that was the only character that she enjoyed, and at that point she just lost interest in the show. And that's someone who's actually a bigger Torchwood fan than I was.
Oh, blimey. No, I do think it's a shame. I mean, I will watch it till the end, but it really could have been. It's such a fantastic concept. It's such a great concept, and if they condensed it down a little and perhaps not pandered too much in particular places, then I think it could have been really, really solid.
Torchwood Idbas says Torchwood lacks the sex appeal of Doctor Who.
Judy Kissinger, Amy Pond substitute, Captain Jack, not quite Matt Smith.
No.
He's got a more normal face than Matt Smith.
Yeah, he's not quite.
Okay, well that's wrapping up for Torchwood. Let's have a look at this week's DVD review, which is the Sylvester McCoy adventure Paradise Towers.
Right.
Let's just show the promo for that.
Caretaker number 345/12 subsection 3 reporting. I'm scared, Chief.
Yes, I know.
Who are you?
Well, the Kang. Red Kangs. Who exactly are you?
The name is Pex.
I am the chief caretaker, and I am no need to tell me I know who you are. This is the great architect return to Paradise Towers. Bid him welcome. All hail the great architect. All hail the great architect. Kill him.
I don't know what you're so pleased about. There's a 327 Appendix 3, subsection 9, death waiting for you.
There is no cause for panic.
No cause for panic?
No.
No cause for panic?
No.
Rules are rules, orders are orders.
The 327 Appendix 3, subsection 9, death of the great architect must take place.
There's nothing quite like tea and crumpets, is there?
I think it'd be a very good idea if before you're dead, you and I had a nice little Regulation 13, Appendix 2, final conversation.
Interesting in that promo, they actually try and avoid as much as possible showing the robots.
I don't understand why. They were amazing robots. I thought the one in the pool was really cuddly.
The lobster robot, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've got a picture of the lobster robot here, actually.
Yeah.
Now, that would have been quite a cool pet, that lobster robot.
Assisting children's swimming lessons since,
And attacking Bonnie Langford. I mean, what more do you need in a pet?
Exactly.
I remember when this was originally broadcast. You're too young, I think.
was 87, so you wouldn't. I think my first, as much as Sylvester McCoy is my Doctor, first one I actually saw was Curse of Fenric. One episode of Curse of Fenric.
Right.
But I was a overly nervous 8-year-old and thus didn't watch it again for years. But no,
Curse of Fenric is scary.
Oh yes, particularly the first episode when you were 8.
Yeah.
But I actually only first sort of watched this one for the first time. This is the only McCoy I hadn't seen until this year.
Oh, okay.
I got it on the DVD.
Yeah.
And I finally got to watch it, and I know it hasn't got a very good reputation, but I don't think it's quite as bad as.
You know what? I think all McCoy stories just need to be reassessed by people because they have such bad reputation, but actually they're really enjoyable.
I mean, I'll say, like I said, Sylvester McCoy is my Doctor, so I think it's one of my absolute favourite eras, particularly Series 25 and 26.
Yes.
I think that's fantastic. Series 24, the time they're on is awful, but I think the other stories aren't.
They're not that bad, and I'm going to say that I don't think Mel is as bad as people say either. There are horrible moments of her screaming many times, which could easily be cut out. But actually, her character herself is actually okay. She's an intelligent woman.
We were having this conversation, weren't we? Because you're not a fan. It might be because I suggested that Mel, in many ways, paved the way for Amy Pond, in that she met the Doctor out of sync and in a timey-wimey way, and she's red-headed. That was admittedly about it, but it was just to wind you up. I was saying that for 80s companions, until she came along, and then Ace afterwards, no one really seemed to enjoy travelling with the Doctor that much. I mean, I never understood why Perry stayed with the Doctor, because they just hated each other up until except for the first story.
And she really thought she was going to die every single week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, probably from the Doctor as well. You know, even though he threatened it, just hanging out with him was dangerous enough. But yeah, I think on paper Mel's actually quite a good companion. I just think it was an awkward time for the show, and
I guess because I think as far as it being an awkward time, obviously there was a lot of focus on it. You know, BBC deciding whether they should keep this going. It was considered to be a cartoon type show instead of a drama series, and Bonnie Langford, I guess, just being the fact that she was Bonnie Langford, somehow embodied the cartoonness.
Yeah, I mean, she's perhaps the companion with the most baggage.
Yes.
Apart from actually Catherine
She was too well known.
Like similar when Catherine Tate came along, she came with all this baggage, and Bonnie Langford was the same problem. Where usually I think companions before had been not. You'd
never seen them before.
Pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a very John Nathan Turner-esque thing to get someone that were known in to boost, but it did. I think it did backfire.
It backfired. Yeah.
I just don't think that Mel worked particularly well against Sylvester McCoy's Doctor. It's especially retrospectively knowing the type of person he became. Paradise Towers, obviously, it was his first proper, episode after Tony Rani.
Yeah.
So it's still getting the grip of the character there, but she's just. You're right. She's too much like Bonnie Langford, and she has appalling dress sense. Appalling.
Would you like to say something about her outfit in Paradise Towers?
Yeah, it was appalling. It was really bad. I mean, it's seriously up there as one of my top contenders for bad things that companions have worn, and believe me, I have a list.
The funny thing is actually
Nyssa had some pretty terrible outfits, which actually we see in the extras.
Yes, and I don't
Tegan wasn't.
But the storyline wise of Paradise Towers, what do you think? I mean, this is a dystopian, futuristic.
I think the setting and the ideas behind the story are brilliant.
Yes.
I love them. I love this idea of like this world, this place that becomes so cut off to the world. It's developed its own culture and his own going to his own language, and I think that's brilliant. Yeah,
that was an interesting part. Is actually the language, because you could imagine kids probably going, "What the hell are they talking about? I don't understand any of these words." But it was a sort of Clockwork Orange style tribute, I suppose.
And there's this odd streak of almost black humour that's in there that doesn't perhaps quite get brought out. Like even like the residents are going to eat metal. They're cannibals.
Yes, they're cannibals.
It almost seems so light and fluffy. It almost doesn't register perhaps as much as it should.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the ideas behind the story, and I've got no problem even with the dialogue. I like language. It just doesn't quite click, I think. I mean, it's always interesting seeing Sylvester, I think, in these very early days when he hasn't quite worked out what he's doing with the character of the Doctor. And so it's almost a bit weird seeing him being almost light and comical. You know, you think he's got some master plan, but he really is just making it up as he goes along.
Sure. In fact, this would actually be a great setting if they brought the Doctor back there with Matt Smith, of an episode written by like Mark Gatiss. You know, you could imagine he would actually go to town with these types of characters.
Yeah.
They're very sort of League of Gentlemen kind of
very
world, isn't it?
This is the thing, and actually I said to Adam the other day, and I think it applies to a lot of 80s Who, is that a lot of the concepts, you could take them, dust them down just a little, and rewrite them for the modern series, and you wouldn't know the difference. You know, they're still fantastic concepts that really stand up, and I do like the base concept behind Paradise Towers a lot. I think it's fantastic. I just think that the execution of it, for the reasons you listed before, it obviously suffers.
And I think the cleaners, the robots, are disappointing because actually they don't seem to have progressed since the War Machines.
No,
that kind of robot.
You know, but you're right. They actually look a little bit like War Machines as well.
Yeah, they do. It's like, but there's been 20 odd years. And somehow the special effects department can't work out a better way to do a robot.
Unfortunately, I don't think they've increased the budget since the War Machines, maybe. Or it was back to that level. I will actually say one thing about this episode. A lot of people say Richard Bryars is absolutely terrible. I would argue he's really good for the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Because he's playing the part as it can only really be played, which is that kind of the ultimate jobs-worthy, fussy, don't step on the grass official. And he plays that pitch perfect.
With a Hitler moustache.
Yeah, with a Hitler moustache.
A little Hitler.
Then it's in the 4th part where he becomes possessed by, is it Coragnon, the architect?
Yeah.
Or Conan, the
architect. Yeah, the architect. Yeah.
And he's just, it becomes like a kid acting like an evil zombie. And
yeah.
I do think it falls apart there. I mean, and that is one thing actually. Thinking about the brain in the basement that irritated me a little bit is you'd never know why his character's feeding it bodies, because he obviously doesn't know it's the architect.
Yeah.
Because he's got to kill the Doctor because he thinks he's the architect, but he's never explained how it's a major plot hole, and it would only take perhaps a couple of lines to fill it up. But you're just like, well, why are you doing this? It's never explained.
No, that's true. Actually, I hadn't actually thought about that one. Yeah. Let's see if there's anyone in the chat room. Idbas, I think it's hard at times to look back on the older Who with modern viewer expectations, given development in special effects, funding for scenery, etc.
Yes, absolutely. We were pointing out the fact that this amazing pool that Bonnie Langford was so desperate to get to out of everywhere in all the universe just looked very much like a very typical outdoor pool.
But wasn't that the point?
Do you think so?
Because Paradise Towers was supposed to be this amazing place, and of course it wasn't. The reputation of it had preceded the reality.
I hadn't actually thought of it like that. So I just assumed
because that was, I guess, one of the reasons why he brought her there, because it was supposed to be this amazing place to visit.
Well, the impression that I got is that it actually was amazing, except that it had become very run down over time, just through neglect. I get the impression that actually it probably the pool was supposed to be very good, because when Mel does come upon it, and she's like, "Oh, it's lovely," and she doesn't seem disappointed. So.
And she can't seem to notice a yellow lobster robot.
You think it would have stood out in the blue water, this giant yellow robot, and this is like it sneaks up on us somehow. Maybe the Doctor only chose colourblind companions. I'm not sure. But.
Well, yeah, it would explain a lot about her outfit.
You really hate that outfit. It is a horrible outfit. It's up there with Perry's pink leotard in Attack of the Cybermen, I think.
Really?
They're both pretty tasteless. Maybe actually Perry's is slightly worse.
I mean, Perry had the advantage of having, a figure for a figure-hugging outfit.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But it still was bright pink in Attack of the Cybermen.
DVD extras. I thought there's actually a DVD extra on this, which I thought seems on the wrong disc, because it's called Girls, 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 and it's about the 80s female companions. And it's an interview between Sophie Aldred, Nyssa, and Tegan. And it's like, well, Bonnie Langford's not even in it, so why didn't they just... There are still Ace episodes still to be released. Yeah. How come they didn't hold it back for that one? It kind of seemed... But it was quite fascinating, because it's amazing how Janet Fielding seems to actually really... Hate everything she ever did.
She's got a real reputation. I very rarely listen to commentaries, but by all accounts, In fact, I think it was Radio Free Skara that described her as the Antichrist of commentaries, because she just sits there going,
complaining,
rubbish, bad, rubbish. I mean, and this is it. It gets to the point where I'm like, I can understand you've got a few complaints about what you did, but this program is still remembered. People still watch it. You know, it wasn't kind of been all bad.
Also the fact that, you know, if she goes to places for signings, there are fans who want her to pay her for autographs and things.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, give them something other than just like it was all rubbish and I hated it.
Yeah, and it's just like, just get a bit bored of that. I mean, it's the same if you ever see Eric Saywood interviewed. He's always just like, this was terrible, that was terrible. John Nathan Turner was responsible for everything that went wrong in my life. And it's a bit like, I'm really bored of seeing you interviewed and saying these things. I think at least you get someone like Andrew Cartmel, and he will admit there are faults and things like he does on the making of.
But he has the pride as well.
But he's quite proud of what he's done, and he will defend what he did. And you feel he still looks back at it with pride, and that's quite nice to see. You know, because he's not blind to the faults, but he'll defend it, and that's nice. Whether certain mid-80s Doctor Who people are just like, no, it was the worst thing ever. You're just like, I don't really want to see this. It's really depressing.
Well, I think that I could potentially see how you could be quite bitter about leaving a programme like Doctor Who
and not getting any work.
Being remembered for Doctor Who, and yes.
But there are so many actors who don't get remembered for anything.
Yes,
this is
my
true.
Point. You know, I mean, it's a great point.
I work in theatre, and you see so many actors who you know they're great, but then unless they get that one role, no one is going to remember them in 50 years' time.
Sure.
Something like this. Yeah, I can appreciate how it must be frustrating, but at the same time, you're not going to be forgotten. Your stuff's always going to be on DVD and on the internet, and you know you've kind of achieved a basic nerd immortality, which is going to have something.
Well, I mean, the great thing about when we had Simon Fisher-Becker in a couple of weeks ago to talk about his time as Dorian, and he just loved it, and he loves the fact that he can go out and do these, appear on this, be interviewed on podcasts, go to conventions and meet fans, and that they all know who he is. You know, because he's been a working actor for many, many years, and now people are actually recognising him. And he actually is really embracing that.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if you don't want to go to conventions, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want that, that's absolutely your choice. I wouldn't say you have to, but at the same time, don't.
It's something you have to think about, though, if you're going into Doctor Who, because you can't go into Doctor Who completely blind.
No, particularly now.
Especially now,
Yeah, so such a thing, and it always will be, but yeah, you can't then claim, I didn't know this would happen. It's like, well.
I mean, even back then, you know, Doctor Who was big news. If you were being cast in it, you were in the papers. You know, the storylines would be in the papers. It was still, you know...
it's still true today, isn't it?
It's absolutely true today.
There's so much hype about Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew him. They were like, he's going to succeed the great almighty St. David Tennant. Who's this? And, it was great. And then, of course, you know, the Daily Mail getting very upset about Karen Gillan because she had the front to look foxy.
They get upset about Doctor Who viewing figures, so I don't think it's...
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sure they have to watch every week just to see how foxy she is.
Yes, but you have to check again. Yes,
and then run lots of photos
she's still wearing that short
foxy.
skirt. Let's just rewind and check how short it is. Yep, it's definitely short.
Let's print a picture of that short skirt.
They haven't done a comparison short skirt with Tegan yet, have they?
No, but they should. That's the best idea.
Series 21 leather miniskirt thing she used to wear. They can compare it.
You know, it's very funny being able to see yourself on the screen.
Yeah, I'm just realising how much I'm gesturing like a Jerry Anderson
Me
puppet.
too.
Radio Rassilon says, how do people think JNT would look back on his time now? That's from Harry.
That's the difficult
That's
one.
a really interesting
Because he
question.
always defended his time. And
of course he
never...
did. I think he was quite affronted that people didn't like some of the stuff that he was doing.
I mean,
his stunt casting. And it was stunt casting.
Oh yeah, it was stunt casting. Definitely, but that happens in the show now. I mean,
you have stunt casting now, but at least they're cast, I guess, correctly.
Yeah, I mean,
and he was of the opinion that you had to cast completely against their type. But you were talking about actors who weren't necessarily good enough to pull off against their type.
I mean, I always say my favourite stunt casting is still Beryl Reid in Earthshock, who looks completely lost. Like she's wandered into the wrong set, and she's a little bit scared. She's looking for Ken Barlow, I think, because she was a commentary, and she doesn't really know what's happening the entire time. And she's supposed to be this tough, hard-as-nails space captain, and she just looks completely wrong.
Indeed,
and entertainingly bad.
Yeah.
But then you get like, the likely lad from Resurrection of the Daleks, and you're just like, and it's like, can't stand the confusion in my mind. It's like, can't stand your acting. Yeah, I think, how would you look back on it? I think he would... It's really difficult to say, because I remember reading, I think it was the mid-90s, Doctor Who magazine had the John Nathan Turner memoirs, and he would admit to faults, but he would still defend a lot of stuff. And I think he would still be a supporter of the show.
Of course he would, and I think he would, he would highlight things that he did, which, paved the way. Like Ace is, without a doubt, I think, paved the way for Rose. And
those last two series of the classic are definitely prototypes for what's come since, absolutely, without a doubt. I do feel a bit bad for him when you've got people like Eric Saywood, who... I sometimes say Eric Saywood was one of the worst things that happened to Classic Who. I think he wrote one... Revelation of the Daleks was good, but I think Revelation of the Daleks is a Doctor Who spin-off that happened to feature the Doctor.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, he didn't seem to like the character of the Doctor. A number of times the Doctor just comes shoved to the side and doesn't do much. But he's always like, oh, this is the producer's fault, that's the producer, and he never kind of step and go, okay, I shouldn't have done it like that.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a bit of a shame you can't have John Nathan Turner give his side.
Yes, no, sure.
We put John Nathan Turner into Google the other day, and it auto-completed it with ruined Doctor Who.
It's like, after this time, I just want to say to people, let it go.
Let it go, yeah.
It's back.
Well, Radio Rasslin replies saying, I think he'd be prouder than he was at the time.
That would be good.
Yeah,
I think one of the Radio Rasslin guys is having a child that they said is going to be the reincarnation of John Nathan Turner, so...
Idbas, it's my fault, my husband, my skirt, your glass for long live the short skirt.
That's a reference to the time and...
the Comic Relief, was it?
Yeah, it was the Comic Relief thing. I
Special?
can't remember what they called them though.
Space and Time?
Space and Time, or something like that. Yeah.
And Big Papa Creamy was just clarifying that the Mail ran about 10 stories about Karen Gillan's short skirt.
Are you sure it's just 10?
See, and then they complain Doctor Who's too hard to follow. That's because they're looking at the skirt the entire time.
Well, I think Karen Gillan brings something great, I think, to the show.
I really like it. I think Rory's still my favourite companion on it, but I do like Karen Gillan. It's interesting because you've got a lot of people who don't seem that... Or there's definitely some people who don't. But I think the interesting thing is Moffat has admitted he writes her as being flawed quite deliberately, and I think that's really interesting to do.
But what's really interesting is that at least he does admit that, and she is flawed, and you can tell that she is. But so was Rose flawed in so many ways, but people just don't even realise it. They just think that she was...
They see the kind of romance.
They see the romance, and they kind of forget her quite selfishness and her horrible to Mickey. Absolutely.
Which was a very typical 19-year-old.
And it was all about me, and not about actually what was really going on. And there's that episode, the werewolf one,
yes,
where they're sort of laughing at the Queen Victoria, and you think, and the Doctor then goes along with it, and you think, well, I don't necessarily think that he would have. There's just something wrong about that particular scene where Rose is taking the mick out of Queen Victoria in front of her face, and David Tennant sort of goes along with it. It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem the Doctor.
Yes.
Actually, that was an interesting, going back to Let's Go Hitler, that was an interesting moment where he was calling up for the voice interaction, and you saw Rose, and he was going, oh, guilt. And I thought that actually made me laugh, because I just thought it was Stephen Moffat having a bit of a dig at the RTD thing of the Doctor basically screwing up his companions all the time, because it's just like, Doctor in a parallel Earth, traumatise your family, oh, you can never remember any of the fun you had.
Yeah.
It's just a bit like, yeah, didn't you people used to travel with the Doctor and just have a good time?
Just had a good time, indeed. Idbus, I remember Moffat describing Rory as needing to find his own between the two other leads.
I think he has.
Well, he has, and the thing is, obviously they gave him the opportunity with the whole idea of, I guess, the Flesh Amy, and I guess the fact that it wasn't really Amy there, they had to spend a bit more time with him, and coming towards A Good Man Goes to War, where she's basically the distressed mother and not necessarily being a companion at all in that episode. And of course then it's up to Rory to fill in that gap.
And he's got a great line in Dry Humour as well that I really like. Just those kind of little lines. I almost call it a Fifth Doctor sense of sarcasm, where he sounds almost polite, but you realise he's just like, no.
It's always really lovely though when you do actually watch a character develop as who progresses.
Yeah.
It's always nice to be able to see that, and I think it was really noticeable with Donna, but perhaps more so with Rory than Amy, even though Amy's sort of been with the Doctor longer and had more experiences with him.
But I guess, yeah, I mean, Amy's a bit more two-dimensional than Rory.
Well, that's an interesting question, but I'd probably need an essay to answer. No, I think that...
it was quite a good article you found.
Yes.
Was it on the BBC America site?
It was on the BBC America site, and it was about Amy's relationship with the Doctor.
Yeah.
And saying how what she really sort of finds in him is a father figure. She obviously, her parents were absent.
Yeah.
She met him when she was very young, and she idolised him and always hoped he'd come away to take her on adventures. And the way he acts back towards her, it's almost with a sort of fatherly guilt and concern, you know. And it's interesting as well that when the voice interface did come up with little Amelia Pond, and he always just has this great affection, and sometimes I do get the impression that when he looks at Amy, he's actually thinking of Amelia.
I think so. I mean, it was a great moment when he started going fishing because he cussed and just dragged himself
off.
Well, you know, he did build them bunk beds.
I love that one. Brilliant.
You know,
what's wrong with a bunk bed? It's a bunk bed and ladder. That's great. Yeah, I mean that was great. And actually, I mean, see, on our thing, we normally just flip around on subjects. We keep going back to things we talked about before. But I did actually think, going back to Let's Kill Hitler, that the moment where he's pleading for River Song's life, he's pleading for the woman who just killed him. I thought that was a brilliant little moment. Just that kind of that's very typically very Doctor. Yeah, very Doctor. And his contempt for the kind of the time travelling tiny people as well, because he goes, "I'd ask you who you think you were, but that's already quite obvious."
It's quite an interesting concept. The whole idea of this sort of time travelling tiny people going around taking people out of their time to just torture them.
You know what it made me think of? There's an episode of Red Dwarf called The Inquisitor. Have you watched it?
Right, yes, yeah.
Basically, it was a slightly different version of The Inquisitor.
Yeah.
I almost thought that idea could almost have been lifted from that, but I trust them off more than that. No, just a bit of trivia for you, actually. Watching The Confidential, they actually recreated Hitler's office from photographs of Hitler's actual office, so apparently it's one of the biggest sets they built just so that they could blow it up when they crashed the TARDIS through the window. You'd want to be there that day, wouldn't you? What an amazing job. That's it, I'm retraining.
Special effects department.
Yeah.
Next week, Scary Dolls.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I mean, I hope it looks good. The trailer looks good. I'm a little worried about Mark Gatiss. I hope it's more back to like the Unquiet Dead, the Victory of the Daleks, which hopefully it will be. But it does. I mean, it looks like a proper old school, terrifying Doctor Who.
It does, yeah.
Which is what we like.
Well, we've got the trailer here.
Please save me from the monsters.
Tell me about George. I mean, he's scared to death of everything. But Ted, again, you see these eyes? They're old eyes. And one thing I can tell you, monsters are real.
And I believe it's actually going to be a completely self-contained episode. There's actually going to be no reference at all to any of the sort of ongoing storylines.
Wasn't it taken from the first part? Because originally that and Curse of the Black Spot, I think, were
swapped around. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that's true.
I think it very much looks like it was an episode designed to scare the kids. But those episodes
great.
are always really good, yeah. And quite often scare the adults a lot too. I know I've been scared.
Idbas says, next week reminds me of the Tennant episode with the Antoinette Clockwork robots, the girl in the fireplace.
It looks a little grimier than that.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
And Gallifrey Time says, I'm looking forward to this greatly, I can't wait. And then Talking Who next Wednesday, of course.
No, I think it was actually shot in a hotel in Cardiff, which they're redoing. So if you want to have the ultimate nerdy weekend getaway, you should definitely hunt that hotel down, and you can spend the entire weekend recreating the episode.
Have you been down to Cardiff?
No, but I have someone who has promised to give me the Doctor Who / Torchwood tour of Cardiff, and I'm so desperate to go to the Blink House because it's my favourite episode ever. And it's still around.
Yeah.
Although I probably shouldn't mention it. I think that they're planning on converting it into flats or something, but I think the recession stalled that, so...
Sure.
Yeah.
That and everyone disappearing when they went there, obviously.
Oh, yeah, and that.
I've been to the Millennium Centre years ago.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, now I think about it, I went there the day Doctor Who premiered Series 1. It's how priorities change. I mean, because I was still a fan, but I'd kind of waned a little bit because there's other things happening in my life, and then the new series started, and I was actually watching a show I'd done a bit of sound design for in Cardiff, which I look back now and think, yeah, that's kind of appropriate, I guess, but I haven't done the Doctor Who tour. I'd like to.
Cool. When's your next podcast available, do you think?
Well, we're normally fortnightly, but we're on a little break at the minute because we've got some real life things. Andy's got a new job and she's moving house, and it's all quite exciting, but it's obviously time consuming. But hopefully we're aiming for mid-September, end of September. We're going to be looking at Castrovalva, I think is the one.
Oh, really? Okay, great, fantastic.
A bit of a favourite of mine. So yeah, that should be available on iTunes, and hopefully it'll be very good.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys.
Right,
that's been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been fun and educational and very high tech.
And I hope your Naked Scarf fans are enjoying the fact they actually get to see you on camera this time.
I'm sure they won't be. Like I said, I've just become very aware of how I tend to shake my arms around when moving.
I do it all the time.
I do that a lot in the podcast, and then I tell people that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Of course, they can't see it, and now they can see it in all its handshaking glory.
And Twitters? Do you have Twitters as well?
Yes.
At Naked Scarf, yeah.
And I said we've got the Tumblr, which you just put up. We have a Facebook group, which you can find just by if you search the Naked Scarf. I guarantee it'll be the only thing that comes up.
And why is the scarf naked?
Do you want to answer this question? Why we named it that? I don't think you should.
And
I'd say we were drunk, but it would be.
You know what? I can't remember. So where we
No. We invented it because of the game you invented that I had.
I'm not answering this question. Neither are you.
Let's just say it's just a unique name. It certainly isn't anything to do with the drinking game Andy might have invented once with a Doctor Who scarf. I'm not at liberty to say anything more about, apparently.
I hate you so much.
Rightly
so much.
And you can hear more of that hate regularly every fortnight when we come back. Have we never actually tackled on the podcast why we called it? We haven't, have we? I like to pretend it's a reference to the naked lunch, but it's really not.
No, okay, well that's it then. Okay,
I'm not
sorry, folks, you're not going to find out the reason for the naked scarf.
We'll add to our mythos.
Indeed, absolutely. And it will come out eventually, I think, by the sounds of it.
couple of drinks one day, we'll hit recording and we'll see why.
I hate you so much.
Yes, yeah, I know you do.
That's why I'm going on strike.
Yeah, any conventions planning to go to, or have you done, or you know?
Actually, we've never. Well, no, I went to a Doctor Who long leap there, I think, back in the 90s, where I met Colin Baker and Michael Jackson.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
We've never really done a convention. It's partly money, and like I said, Andy's only recently got a new job. I'm starting an MA at the end of next month.
Yeah.
So money's really a bit tight, but I have to admit, I do keep eyeing up Gallifrey and thinking.
I know, it would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Just
1 year.
Podcasters as well, and I'm thinking 2013, 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
But that's possibly thousands of pounds, so I can't.
Yeah, no, sure.
Can't make any promises about that. Maybe one day. We should totally do it. It's a vague idea, maybe, perhaps, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. No, it is the one to go to, apparently. But anyway, thanks again, guys, and tune into the podcast in mid-September.
Tune in now. We have 14 episodes.
And then, of course, download all the previous episodes, absolutely, including the philosophy one, where you sound very intellectual, I have to say. Very intellectual.
It makes a nice change.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And thanks for joining us on Talking Who. We're back next week to review Night Terrors, and I'll be joined by Barry Aldridge, popular YouTube Doctor Who reviewer. And so thanks a lot, guys, and see you next time.
Bye.